to yet another workshop with the Research Capacity Development Unit at the University of Johannesburg. Today's workshop is titled Faculty of Education, Proposal Writing and Submission Procedures. My name is Koketso Pila and I will be your moderator for today's session. Firstly, I would like to notify you that this session is being recorded and I've already started the recording. And secondly, I would like to take this time to thank all our attendees for taking your time today to join us. And most importantly, I would like to thank our presenter, Prof. Moyo, for her effort with preparing and giving this presentation. Before I can formally introduce Prof. Moyo to you, I would like to go over some housekeeping rules and important information. So for the housekeeping rules, if you do have questions during the presentation, please raise your hand if you would like to speak. Alternatively, you can type your question in the chat box. I will then indicate to the presenter to address your question. And as I've already stated, that the session is being recorded, so the presentation slides will be requested from the presenter, and both the recording and the slides will be uploaded on our Moodle community and RCDMS before the end of the week. And also, a feedback survey will be sent out during the session on the chat box. Please, may we request that you fill the survey out for us to gain some insight on whether this workshop was useful and how we can improve in the future. And also, this will be used for the facilitators and RCD reporting. And also by completing the survey, it ensures that you get the certificate of attendance. Also, you may suggest some of the topics that you would like the RCD to cover or to host in the future. And just to mention again that the RCD has launched the management system, which is known as the RCDMS. And if you have not registered for the RCDMS, please may we request that you do so. You can find the RCDMS on ULink under the services tab, and you go to RCDMS, then you go on with the registration process. And if you are encountering problems when you're busy registering, you can always send us an email on rcdinquiries@uj.ac.za. So without further ado, I will then introduce to you our facilitator, Prof. Moyo, by reading out her bio. So Prof. Svizney Moyo is an associate professor in the Department of Educational Leadership and Management in the Faculty of Education. Prof. Moyo has been a lecturer in the Education Leadership Policy and Skills Division at the University of Witwatersrand. Her program of research focuses on women in educational leadership and management, examining their leadership approaches and how they navigate traditional patriarchal societal norms and structures. This interest in gender dynamics reflects her broader commitment to exploring gender issues in education and has expanded into a critical analysis of social justice in educational contexts. She supervises postgraduate research and serves as an external examiner for master's dissertations and doctoral theses at both local and international universities. Prof. Moyo is also a reviewer for several local and international peer-reviewed journals. She has published widely in departments of higher education, accredited journals, and presented her work at national and international conferences. Currently, she serves on the editorial board of the International Journal of Educational Management and Development Studies. Over to you, Prof. Moyo.
Thank you so much, Koketso. Good afternoon, everyone who is in attendance. I am going to share my screen.
Just while Prof is still sharing, just to mention that those who have questions during the presentation, you can just raise your hand and then I will indicate to the presenter, or you can type your question on the chat box and then I will raise it up with the presenter. So Prof Moyo, I would like to ask from you, would you like to take the questions during the presentation, or would you rather reserve the questions for later during the Q&A session?
Yes, I think we can reserve the questions for the last part where we are going to discuss about the presentation, where I will be taking some questions.
Okay,
But
thank you.
if someone feels that they cannot wait until the end of the presentation, they can indicate, like you're saying, by raising their hands. And okay, so please watch out that for me, because I won't be able to see when I share my screen.
Yes, I'll do that.
All right. So I hope you can see. Please confirm that you can see my screen. All right. So good afternoon once more. And I thank Koketso for organizing this. And this is very, very useful. And I wish our students could appreciate and could make use of all these workshops that you are organizing, because they are very, very useful. So rather than waiting on our supervisors to be guiding us, we should also go out to look for information. And postgrad has been is being very, very resourceful. So I wish our students could make use of these opportunities. So that's our topic, proposal writing and submission procedures in the Faculty of Education, where I am coming from. So you will see that a research proposal is a clear, concise summary outlining the key issues or questions your study will address. And it's a plan. It's a plan whereby you are laying out as to what and how you are going to go about your study. And the goal here is to present and justify the need to study a research problem and to present the practical ways in which the proposed study should be conducted. In other words, that plan that you are going to lay, it should be able to provide the readers, or to provide whoever is going to read your work, it should be able to see and determine as to how you are going to conduct your study practically. And then it's a clear and it's well-structured piece of work, and it lays a foundation and most crucial step in the research process. So I think all of us understand the importance of a foundation when we are building structures. So if you fail to lay the foundation, then the whole structure is going to be affected. And also you take note of the terms that are being used here: well-structured, clear, concise, it then explains, that it has to be very clear and unambiguous. And it must be convincing with regards to the credibility, achievability, practicality, and the repeatability of the research design. If you were to write up your proposal, and anyone else can be able to use that same proposal in other contexts. So it must show a sound understanding of existing literature and the research process, as well as thoughtful planning of the time required for each research stage. So it is clear and it's well structured. That's what you should understand as a plan that is going to guide the whole study that you are going to conduct for more than 2 years, and depending on the level, if it is master's or PhD, depending on the level, but then whatever time you are going to take to conduct your study, but then it's going to be determined by the clarity of the proposal. So it's not something, excuse me, it's not something that you can rush through. It's not something that you can take for granted, but it has to be, you have to be thoughtful and you have to plan it carefully. So these can be some guiding questions that you should ask yourself, and possibly as a student in a postgrad, you should be able to maybe stick these questions somewhere where you see them, where you read them every day. Whatever you are doing about your study, these questions should be able to guide you as to what do you want to do. Ask yourself as you go to the library, as you are searching for the literature, as you are talking to colleagues, as you are thinking about your own study, on this journey that you have just embarked or that you're planning to embark on. So be asking yourself such questions as, why do you want to do it? Why is it important? Who has done similar work? And how and where are you going to do it? You should have you should be able to answer these questions. And how long will it take and how much will it cost? So maybe you want to go and you conduct your study in the Eastern Cape, for example, or in another context outside South Africa. So these are the questions that you should be asking yourself. And then the starting point, yeah. Then I think at this point it's important for me to mention that you are going to be assigned to a supervisor, and that supervisor you are going to be assigned to, it's going to be based on the focus on their research niche. Like when Koketso was reading out my bio, you got to know that my work is focused on gendered leadership. So if you are interested in gendered leadership, for example, then you are going to be assigned to a supervisor who does that, who is reading that literature, who is already focusing their work in that area. So it's much easier for that supervisor, for that person to guide you because of their expertise in that specific area. And another thing is that we do have some templates in the faculty. So from the research proposal right through, we do have templates that we follow, that we use. So these are going to be used to guide you. So after you are assigned to the supervisor, you are going to sign. There is a contract, supervisor student agreement, that you are given to read and understand and sign, and the supervisor signs as well. And we keep safe all the signed copies. So when you read that contract, that's when you're going to understand as to what is your role and what is the supervisor's role. So as a human being, as a person, you should be able to contribute to the building up of that professional relationship between yourself and the supervisor. And this is only the beginning of a journey that is going to take many years. So the starting point could be the supervisor can ask you for a research idea. what do you want to do? This can be in a meeting. But so when you are coming to UJ, we assume that there is a topic that you want to study, and then we can sit and we can discuss and we can finalize. And then so the starting point then is going to be to come up with a problem. What is a problem? Because by so doing, we are crafting the title. So you choose a topic that addresses a gap or limitation in existing knowledge. Maybe you are in masters from your honors, you have been reading, you've been writing assignments, you have, or even in PhD, maybe at masters, you want to continue with what the research idea in masters, or you got something that is puzzling you at work or wherever. So what is the gap? What is the limitation in the existing knowledge? You know, the little that you have read in the literature, what do you think there's a gap? Where do you think there's a gap? And the challenges or expands on current theories. You know, you want to expand on current theories, or you want to look for some challenges in the existing theories, or you want to respond to unsatisfactory applications of existing concepts. What are the concepts? What is unsatisfactory in the existing literature? And also, you might want to contribute new insights or knowledge. So that's the starting point of you crafting a title. And these are some of the qualities of a strong research title. So it is to align with current academic discourse and adds value to the specific field. So in our field of education, with so many dimensions, what is it that you want to contribute in the field of education? And also when it comes to originality, it should offer a unique, underline unique perspective or approach. What's unique about what you are bringing in? And it also has to match your own skills. What are you able to do? And it also should be able to spark ongoing interest. Remember, this journey is long, so you should be interested, waking up in the middle of the night, you want to rewrite that paragraph, you want to revise that idea, you are so interested wherever you are thinking about your study because you are interested. So in this case, then according to my experience as a supervisor, then we don't have to be looking for you. Just this morning, I had to remember, I have to write to one of my master's students who just disappeared. She was so enthusiastic when she registered early in the year. Now, all of a sudden, she's disappeared. She's doing well, but she's not, submitting work. So because of that interest, you don't disappear. You are interested to take up your study, your project. And feasibility, it has to be achievable within available time, resources, and access to data as well. So these are some of the things that you should be put into consideration about a good title. For example, when it comes to feasibility, I can give an example of a minor dissertation, for example. Then we have seen students being so ambitious, wanting to include so many, large samples, even in qualitative studies, but then this is only a minor dissertation and timeframes don't allow that. So this is what you should put into consideration as well when you craft your title. So after you got your title, you then write up the background of your study. This is whereby you establish the general territory or the real world of the research. You place your topic, you place your problem in the existing knowledge. in the existing literature on the ideas of what other people that have come before us have done, and you describe the broad foundations of your study. This is where you are providing sufficient compelling background for readers to understand the context of the study. So this should be very, very convincing, underline sufficient, compelling, and engage the readers and let them see the picture of what is happening with regards to their research construct. So it has to be very specific. It has to be very clear when you locate your study in the literature. So we should be able to see. You are writing, but we should be able to see that picture, to draw that picture of what you want to do. And why then does this matter? You are justifying your study, wherever it is located. It can be specific in, for example, in gendered leadership, and then you bring out what the challenge is. You are bringing out what is there, and you also respond to timely needs such as policy shifts, social change, technological disruption, etc. So, and then you also, whilst you're doing that, you also bring in people that have come before us, existing knowledge. This is whereby we are standing on the shoulders of other people that have done it before us. And then this is whereby we look for authors, for scholars that are prominent in that field, so that we also, when we review proposals, or when we read proposals in a specific field, we are worried about what you are reading. We are worried about who you are citing. So look for the prominent scholars in that field that you are interested in. Then you should be able to reveal the critical gaps, and you should be able to underline the necessity of this research. In other words, you are creating a gap for your own research. You are creating a gap for the problem that you claim exists. So now you are locating it in the existing literature to say, oh, there is the gap. But you cannot go and claim like that, to say there is a gap, but you do it by explaining and by using existing literature to substantiate it. So that's the background. And then by so doing, you should be able to state the problem, the same problem that you stated in your title. You should be able to state it as a problem, this time as a problem statement. You lead the readers logically towards the definition of the specific issue. So at this stage, you are answering questions like, what is the gap that needs to be filled? You claim that there's a problem. You claim that there's a challenge that needs to be looked into. So what is the gap? And what is the problem that needs to be solved? So once you start writing your proposal, you should be able to state at any given time, if someone asks you, what is the problem? You should be able to state the problem clearly. And you may consider framing the problem as a question. For example, what issue are you addressing? So this should be somewhere there on your desk where you see it every day, that this is the problem that I am going to look into. And you ground it in context and literature. And this is whereby you are presenting supporting evidence for the imperative need to address it. So there is a gap. there is a problem. So now you should lead, this should lead logically to your research questions. So once you are able to state the problem and also to substantiate it using literature, this should lead to the research questions. So these research questions, the development of good research questions is a necessary and key step in producing valid results in a study. So they are part of the foundation, building up a good foundation for your study. So well-defined and specific research questions help guide us in making decisions about. So when you are reading the literature, trying to support your looking for the background, trying to support the problem statement, and then you should get some idea of how you are going to structure your research questions, and they are going to guide you as to what methodology are you going to use, because you can choose to locate your study in a qualitative approach or in quantitative, or you can mix the two, what is called mixed methods. And this also is going to guide you as to the type of methods that you're going to use, and also the sample and the sample size, leading to the data collection and analysis instruments. So those are the research questions. And you will see that they are not static at this level when you're writing your proposal. They change and they adapt, or they can be adapted or are refined when researchers work through the different steps of the research design cycle. So whenever you are reading and understanding around your topic, so sometimes you see the need to come back to revise the research questions, and also when you are reviewing the literature. So when we go to look for the literature, we are also understanding how other people have done it. Look for how everything has been crafted, everything has been put together. So, and learn from that. So we don't just go and look for information, but how other people that have come before us have done it, so that we learn from that. So research questions can be developed from theoretical knowledge or previous research or experience, or from a practical need at work. And a clear research question is vital because it sets the scene for the development of a clear research aim and objective. So from the research questions, this is where we are going to formulate the research aim and the objectives. So a question well stated is a question half answered, because the answer is in the question. So these should be stated clearly, and they should be smart. So you might choose that you want to conduct or you want to locate your study in the qualitative paradigm, or quantitative, or mixed. So when it comes to qualitative approach, the research questions are flexible, they are adaptable, and non-directional, and they seek to determine, to discover a process, or to define experiences. So they are normally used to try to understand particular educational, familial, or social processes or experiences that happen in a specific location or context. So they usually describe, address the what and the how. And because they are open-ended, because they guide us to go and unearth, to go and dig deeper in those phenomena. And they are linked to to the designs, to the qualitative research designs, such as the narrative, the case study, ethnography, phenomenology, and grounded theory, etc. So those who are interested in qualitative research, this is what you are going to experience, and you need to understand, to read and understand around this research methodology. And you will see that, for example, in grounded theory, the research questions seek to discover, and in ethnography, they seek to explain or to understand. Any case study, to explore a process, and phenomenology describe the experiences, and narrative inquiry, for example, tell or understand life stories. So your research questions should be able to allow for those life stories to come out. And participatory action research, co-construction of knowledge with participants. So this should be your understanding when you embark on how to phrase or how to frame your questions. And others, those that are interested in numbers, they can choose to locate their studies in quantitative. And remember, what also determines whether you are going to use a quantitative or qualitative methodology is the nature of your problem. What is the problem? For example, in my field of gendered leadership, I seek to understand experiences of female leaders, for example. So for me to be able to achieve that, I go and use the qualitative methodology, because this allows them to share their life experiences, to share their experiences as professionals and as other people, as other women performing other duties in the home. So for me to be able to achieve that, I find it most suitable to locate my work in qualitative studies. So if you find it suitable, then you can locate your study in the quantitative research methodology. So the questions are linked to the research designs, for example, the descriptive, correlational, and others. And these questions tend to be precise and can be categorized as descriptive, comparative, and relationship. So that's those that are interested in numbers. And when it comes to descriptive, you seek to quantify. Remember, in quantitative, it's about, quantities. Seek to quantify responses to one or more variables, and where often begins with what is or what are. So you will see the difference between quantitative and qualitative. So we don't have such questions in qualitative. So when it comes to comparative questions, they seek to compare two or more groups of such outcome variable. So often uses words such as compare or difference. So when it involves two groups, it can be written as, what is the difference in recovery period between group 1 and group 2 when both groups are subjected to the same drug? It can be casual in nature, such as the effect of X on Y. So when it comes to the relationship questions, they are concerned with trends between or among two or more variables, often use words such as relate, relationship, association, and trend. So the relationship questions involving two or more variables usually can be written using what is the relationship between independent variable and dependent variable. So that is quantitative, or you can find it more suitable for you to use to combine qualitative and quantitative. So this is what is called mixed methods. And we only got three research approaches. So this is the third one, whereby you are able to mix. So in mixed methods, questions are designed to integrate both quantitative, that is numerical, and qualitative, that is descriptive elements, allowing researchers to explore topic from multiple perspectives with a single study. So you also justify why you choose to use that methodology that you are going to choose. So you have to justify while you are explaining the characteristics of that methodology. So, and you do that in a convincing way. And a mixed methods research question necessitates that both quantitative data and qualitative data be collected and analyzed either concurrently, sequentially, or iteratively before the question is addressed. So, for example, to what extent does the integration of technology help to explain secondary school mathematics teachers' motivation when teaching? And what are the effects of treatment X on the behaviors and perceptions of groups A and B? And what is the relationship between graduate students' levels of reading, comprehension, and their perceptions of barriers to effective reading of empirical research articles? So these are some of the few examples that you can, on how you can state your mixed methods research questions. So, and then now you got your research questions, and you then go on to state the research objectives. So they are a description of what is to be achieved by the study, and they represent clear, concise, declarative statements which provide direction to investigate the variables. So the research objectives are the specific actions or activities to answer the research questions. And objectives indicate what we are trying to get from the study or the expected results or outcome of the study. So they are narrow and focus. So they narrow and focus the study and guide on the nature of data to be collected and facilitate the development of methodology. So they point to the development of the methodology, and then the research questions and the objectives have to be linked. So in other words, a research objectives is the statement form of a research question. So if you state 5 research questions for your study, it means then you are going to state 5 research objectives for a study. So the number of research questions in a study must always be equal to the number of research objectives in the same study. So this is the weakness that I usually find in thesis that I examine. So whereby I quickly check the research questions and objectives, and then you find sometimes mostly they don't tally, they are not aligned. So everything should be aligned. Objective number 1 should be aligned to research question number 1. Number 2, research question aligned to number 2 objective. And everything else should be aligned. So, for example, what are men's experiences of the transition to contemporary fatherhood? So the objective will be to establish men's experiences of the transition to contemporary fatherhood. So note that there are no extra words that have been, or ideas that have been brought into the objective. So in other words, you can see that the objective then is a statement form of the research question. So another example, to what extent do teaching methods used by teachers contribute to academic performance of mathematics students? And the objective will be to determine the extent to which teaching methods used by teachers contribute to academic performance of students. So this is how we should state our objectives and how we should link the objectives to the research questions. And the research questions and the objectives, they are going to guide us into the literature review. And what are we doing in the literature review? We are examining the prevailing literature to uncover insights into the problem that we have stated or that we claim exists. We are pinpointing areas where knowledge is lacking by merely stating that there's a problem. Then you should be able then to pinpoint exactly in the literature where that problem lies, where the knowledge is lacking. So it relates to how other scholars have written or researched about your topic. And remember, you must know the prominent scholars in your topic, the prominent scholars in your field. And the literature review captures the range of theories used to analyze materials or data. And it situates the current study within a wider disciplinary conversation. So you, from the background, you have been able to point or to open a gap for your own study. So now you are locating your study in that disciplinary conversation, the ongoing debates in the field where your topic is located. You are able to locate, you are able to, to fit it in the existing literature. And you do that by using the same existing literature to substantiate your argument and to illustrate the uniqueness, the importance of and need for your study. So you are also, whilst you are fitting your study or your problem into the existing literature, you are also showing or highlighting its uniqueness. What's unique? Why should we care about reading about what you are claiming, the problem that you claim to exist? What is the importance of your study? Because there are mountains and mountains of knowledge out there. So what's important about your study? What's unique? So you should be able to do that using existing knowledge. And this is why at this point I should stress that this is why we should also depend on the most recent debates, because every day new ideas are coming up. Every day new findings are coming up in that particular field. So you should be able to argue the uniqueness and the importance of your study using the latest information, using the latest debates in your field. So this is why at this point you cannot go and rely on information that's older than 5 years. But if you are not able to find most recent debates, then that's another gap. So there is a lack. There is a shortcoming in the existing literature. State that until 2020, I don't find new knowledge. I don't find new findings in the literature about this. And then be very, very careful that when you claim that you don't find anything, be sure that you have used good search engines for you to come up with that and decision that I don't find any new knowledge, because remember, these proposals or our work is going to be given to reviewers that are knowledgeable, that are reading the same literature. So you might then make that decision that I don't find anything after 2020 or after 1995. I don't find anything. This is why and my study. I'm coming in with my study. So then you are talking to the person that is contributing to the same debate, and then this becomes a dishonesty that we don't do in postgrad. We don't do that. So you should be very, very honest, and to be sure that you are, when you make that decision, you are sure that you don't find anything, and critically assess the merits and shortcomings of existing scholarly works. It doesn't mean that when those articles are published, whatever is published out there, it doesn't mean that we have to say yes to everything, but we should be able to critically assess, from when we read the articles. For example, you are reading a journal article, right from the introduction through the methodology, the literature review, the methodology, the findings, the discussion, and the conclusions drawn. You should be able to see or to critically assess what are the shortcomings, what are the merits, and use the same to substantiate your own problem, to substantiate your own argument, that I find these shortcomings in this literature, I find these merits in this literature. So by so doing, you are becoming a scholar yourself, and demonstrates a researcher familiarity with the topic and appropriate approaches to studying it. So when you study the literature, you are, you are getting to understand your own topic. You are getting to understand the context within which you are locating your own argument. So read widely in South Africa, outside South Africa, outside Africa, other developing regions and developed regions. What are they saying about this topic in the developed regions, in the developing regions other than Africa? What are they saying? Neighbors in neighboring countries outside South Africa. What are they saying? Bending together. Scholars, where they agree and where they disagree. So you don't just go and sing, they say, they state, just praising everything. You should be able to point to the shortcomings as a scholar. And you might find these 5 C's useful when you do your literature review. So you cite, the primary focus of the literature pertinent to your research problem. Start with that pertinent literature and be able to compare arguments, theories, methodologies, findings expressed in the literature. For example, in my field, a study that has been where, for example, qualitative methodologies have been used or quantitative or mixed, it matters to me that how then were these female leaders being able to express their experiences when quantitative methodologies were used. So you should be able to compare, you should be able to see where the shortcomings are. What do authors agree on? So this approach, you see that is very useful. Then you won't be presenting, summaries. Some of you are going to get this feedback that no, you are not required in the literature review to present summaries of existing literature, but to synthesize the literature. How do you synthesize the literature? to be able to see where authors are agreeing and where they are disagreeing and what they say. And who applies similar approaches to analyzing the research problem. You should be able to see that. In Mexico, this study was conducted this way. This is what came up. And the various arguments, contrast the various arguments, the themes, the methodologies, the approaches, and controversies expressed in the literature. What are the major areas of disagreement, controversy, or debate? And critique the literature. You don't just go and sing, yes, 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 but you should be able to critique the literature. Which arguments are more persuasive and why? Which approaches, findings, methodologies seem most reliable, valid, or appropriate, and why? So you become the judge to judge as to what is persuasive and why, and what is valid, and why do you say, or why do you think, or why do you take that opposition to say this is appropriate? And connect the literature to your own area of research and investigation. How does your own work draw upon, depart from, synthesize, or add a new perspective to what has been said in the literature? So by so doing, by using these 5 C's, you will see that you won't be just, taking what others have written, say it in your own words and put it in your own work, but to be able to compare, contrast, critique, and connect in your own work. And you are also required to adopt conceptual or theoretical framework. So this provides the foundation of your own study, and it shows how your research fits into existing knowledge and guides your inquiry. So when it comes to conceptual framework, it's based on concepts, models, or ideas from existing literature. It helps explain what you are studying and how the concepts are related. So you can adopt Bronfenbrenner, for example, as ecological systems theory to explore school leadership in rural contexts. Or you can use a theoretical framework to draw from established theories in the field. So this helps you to explain why a phenomenon occurs based on theory. For example, you apply transformational leadership theory to examine female principals' leadership styles. So why then is it important for you to use a theoretical or conceptual framework? So it clarifies your research lens or perspective and informs your research questions, methods, and analysis, and demonstrates scholarly grounding and critical engagement. So after that, you have located your study in the literature review, you have chosen and explained and justified the most suitable conceptual or theoretical framework, then you go on. Now you must be having an idea when you go through the literature. You are also reading other people's work. You are also seeing how they have conducted their studies. Now, you have an idea of the methodology, how you're going to structure your methodology. So it may be the most important part of the proposal in answering the research question. Some refer to it as the engine of the study. You convince the reader that the overall research design and methods of analysis will correctly address the research problem and impress upon the reader that the methodology or sources chosen are appropriate for the specific topic. So you will see that in methodology, it's about choosing the most suitable based on the research questions, based on your topic, based on the problem that you have stated. So now it's about you in this section, being able to explain the characteristics of those, the chosen methods, and being able to argue or to justify the suitability. So now you need to locate your study in a research paradigm. So it can be qualitative, for example, interpretive, constructivist. So whereby in the qualitative methodology, we are exploring meaning and experience. So that paradigm should be able to allow you to do that. Quantitative, mostly associated with positivist, post-positivist, whereby we are measuring variables, we are also testing hypotheses. And mixed methods are in pragmatism, for example, to integrate both for a fuller understanding, and also a research design, for example, in qualitative, you might choose a case study, ethnography for phenomenology, etc., and quantitative or mixed methods. So you should be able to explain what are the characteristics, what are the tenets, and you should be able to do that also using the most recent debates. There are also ongoing debates in methodology. So that leads you to the sample. And how are you going to choose the sample? And also the data, what kind of data do you need? And also the analysis. So in qualitative, what are the sampling methods? What are the data collection methods? What are the analysis methods? So you should be able to go and read and understand all these different methods. And for whatever method that you are going to choose, for example, you might say, oh, I chose to use purposive sampling to select some women that are leading schools in Gauteng, and then to engage them in individual interviews and observations, and then to use thematic coding to process the data. So now, for each method that you're going to use, you should be able to know, to demonstrate your knowledge in the tenets or in the characteristics of that method, and then to argue its suitability in your study. What is the suitability in your study? Practically, how is it going to be used in this study or in your study? And also, we should be able to address the validity, reliability, trustworthiness, and ethics. So, for example, in qualitative, whereby we should be able to to explain credibility, transferability, and others, and how it's not about, just explaining what they are and leaving them there, and assuming that readers are going to understand how these are going to be applied in your study. But you should be able to practically point or explain as to how these are going to be used in your or achieved in your study. So quantitative reliability and validity. And in mixed methods, of course, we are going to combine the strategies to achieve a triangulation and integration of findings. And then ethical considerations. We need to uphold ethical considerations right through our studies. And we do have the Faculty Research Ethics Committee that oversees the ethics clearance. So all our studies, all our proposals, we are going to submit them to the Faculty Research Ethics Committee to apply for ethics clearance, and you are issued with a certificate that you are going to include in your write-up. So you will see and understand that we are now required. Everyone that is going to submit the ethical clearance application to this committee, we are required to undergo a research ethics evaluation, what is called TREE. So you should have a certificate of the introductory module, or at least. So even the supervisors, when we submit our work to the research ethics committee, we also submit. It's for the students and the supervisors, because everyone should undergo that ethics evaluation. And after that, you are issued with an ethics clearance certificate. You go then to seek approval from the context, from the areas, from the authorities where you are going to conduct your study, and you seek approval and access, and everything else about ethical considerations, about informed consent, about voluntary participation, etc. So we have to ensure that ethical compliance is upheld in each phase every time, because human beings are involved. And in that template, you are also required to explain the envisaged original contribution of your study to scholarship and to policy or practice. What difference is it going to make in scholarship or in practice? And also the research output. We are also required, after our studies, after we complete our studies, we are going to be required to publish. Because if we don't publish, then it's just gray literature that is going to lie there. So in summary, this is our proposal. What is the issue? What problem does your research address? And how will the research achieve its objective? That's the design. And what will the research contribute? So in summary, this is what you should have in your proposal. Our template doesn't require you to put in any timeline, but you should have your own timeline, so that you keep your study in check as a person, and so that you avoid dead time, so that you build up your own timeline. It may be necessary to consult with similar studies done, so how others have done it. So you might want to speak to other people, and you make use of all these resources that are available in postgrad. So whereby you are introduced, for example, if you're doing PhD, how other people have done it, and you are also able to discuss and get some few tips. And a budget. You also need a budget as to the costs that are going to be involved. Some are sponsored, some are not, some are self-sponsored. So you need to understand, and then you don't, so that you don't overspend, and so that you provide specific explanations whereby the need for specific technologies. Maybe you find yourself in need of a laptop, you find yourself in need of a recorder or other technologies that are required. And need for further financial requests. For example, you might be required to attend a conference whereby you are going to present your work, or some other requirements that are needed in your study. Let me check the time. All right. So now your study, your proposal is complete, and you are doing it under the guidance of a supervisor. So the submission requirements are different for the minor dissertation, for the full dissertation, and for the PhD. And so for a minor dissertation, the research proposals are approved at departmental level where faculty-specific regulations provide for such an arrangement. So research proposals are scrutinized at departmental level before they are considered and approved by the relevant faculty of higher degrees committee. Reviewers approved at departmental level, and these are internal and external, and finalized proposals are noted at faculty of higher degrees, and ethical clearance. Ethical clearance is sought after submission, and all these submissions are done on faculty templates. So these are going to be shared by or provided by the supervisors. So that's a minor dissertation. The reviewers, the review process, and the approval, and then it's done in the different departments, and then the proposals are noted in the faculty of higher degrees committee. So that's minor dissertation. For the master's research dissertation, so we usually refer to this one as full dissertation. So once completed, the proposal undergoes a review process, and the supervisor then, after the review process, you are going to do the corrections, whereby you are going to address all the feedback from the reviewers, and the supervisor then submits the proposal for approval to members of the department, where they are scrutinized and at that level, and then they are considered or they are approved, then they are noted at the faculty of higher degrees. So once approved, the supervisor submits the proposal along with an extract of the departmental meeting minutes signed off by the HOD. So when the proposals are being scrutinized, there are minutes that are noted in the department. So all these minutes are noted on a memo by the supervisor, and so it's going to be the memo with those with an extract of the minutes, and then the proposal itself, and then the summary, the proposal summary that is signed by, that is then submitted to the faculty of higher degrees for noting. So that's the submission process for the full dissertation. And then for the doctoral study, student prepares the proposal using the faculty template, like in a minor dissertation, like in a full dissertation, and proposal undergoes a review process. So local and international reviewers are appointed, and in each case, reviewers are appointed as per their expertise. For example, in my field of gendered leadership, we then go and look for reviewers that are reading the same literature, because we want them to apply their expertise. And there are lots of other criteria that is considered when choosing the reviewers, so that they provide comprehensive critical feedback that we are looking for. And of course, I hope you are able then to understand the importance of that critical feedback that we get from the reviewers. So they are not going to say yes about everything that they find in the proposal, but they should be able to point to some weaknesses, so that these weaknesses, when we address them, they strengthen our proposals, and depending on what the reviewers are going to find out. So we appoint the experts in the field that are going to be very useful, that are going to give us the critical feedback that we are looking for. So at this point, you should be able to appreciate that feedback, it's not that we are not able, or we are weak, or our work is weak, but it strengthens our work. It guides our proposals in the right direction. And you then, as a student, address the feedback from the reviewers. And after that, then a doctoral committee is set up, and these are also specialists in the field. And that doctoral committee, the same doctoral committee, it might also include the same reviewers of the proposal. So it's going to be the four members that make up the doctoral committee, and then the proposal, that finalized proposal, it is then sent to the doctoral committee for their input, for their comments, for their feedback. And then the feedback comes back to us. Then the student works on that feedback to improve the proposal. So after the proposal is revised, is reworked, then we write to Miss Carmen in marketing for our faculty. And then she is going to set up a date for the doctoral seminar, for the first doctoral seminar. So once the date is set, she even circulates a flyer that we circulate to people that we want to, anyone can attend our doctoral seminars. So that doctoral seminar is set. So it's a 1-hour session whereby you are given 20, depending on the department, you are given up to 30 minutes or 25 minutes or 20 minutes that you are going to prepare a presentation from your proposal. So in other words, you are now presenting your proposal to the members of the doctoral committee and other people that are going to attend. Then you are going to present your proposal to those people. And then from that same doctoral seminar, you are also given a feedback that can come from the doctoral committee or from anyone that is going to be in attendance. So feedback keeps on coming, so that our proposals are strengthened. So after that, you also, as a student, you are going to attend to the feedback. You are going to address the feedback in your proposal. So you do that under the guidance of the supervisor, of course. So after everything is revised and the feedback is addressed, and then the proposal is finalized. So then the supervisor is going to prepare a memo, and then they are going to submit that memo and the proposal itself and the summary. It's a short version of the proposal, that those 3 documents are going to be submitted by the supervisor to the Faculty of Higher Degrees Committee. So that's the submission process. So I decided to just jot some few skills that you need for this proposal writing process. You need some critical thinking skills whereby you are able to analyze, to evaluate, and to synthesize information to develop strong research arguments. You should be able to substantiate your arguments, and you need good academic writing skills, and so that you are able to clearly communicate research findings. In theses, dissertations, and publications, you go and look for information from other people's work and bring it in your own work. So for you to be able to do that, you should possess good academic writing skills. And a solid understanding of qualitative or quantitative methods to conduct rigorous and ethical research. And time management, you should be able to plan, prioritize tasks effectively to meet deadlines and manage long-term projects so that the supervisors don't have to be looking for you, to be tracking you. Where are you? It has been 2 months. You have disappeared. It has been 6 months. You should be able to guide your supervisor to say, this is how I am going to operate. While the supervisor is reading that section, you are preparing another section. Is that section being looked into by the supervisor is returned to you? You look into you address the feedback, and you do that sincerely because you are reading thoroughly. You are able to synthesize the literature. You are able to substantiate your arguments, and you need resilience and adaptability. The perseverance to handle setbacks, to receive feedback constructively, and to refine research accordingly. So at this level, we value feedback. You go and look for feedback. Once you receive your work from the supervisor or from whoever has been reading your work, go and look for that feedback. What is it saying about your academic writing skills? What is it saying about your weaknesses? So you then take the feedback positively, as this is going to build you up. So the same feedback that we have been receiving, this is what has made us. Even the most senior professors that this is what has built us up. The critical feedback. Once you work on the feedback that is pointing to your weaknesses, you will see how much you are going to grow as a scholar, how much you are going to develop those academic skills, academic writing skills that we need. So those are some of the references that I consulted. So we have come to the end of this presentation. Let me stop sharing so that I am able to see.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof. Moyo, for that very detailed presentation and for outlining the research proposal, all the important parts of the research proposal and what should be included, and also for giving us the tips and advices that you have given us. And I would then like to take this opportunity to give to the participants who would like to ask questions to Prof. Moyo. Can we please engage with her so that we can get the most out of this session? So I am just going to enable everyone's mics so that those who would want to speak can unmute themselves and speak and ask all your questions. Just 1 minute while I enable everyone's mics. Okay, perfect. So do we have questions? This is the time where we need to take the opportunity and raise all our questions. If there's something that you've been struggling with on your research proposal, this is the opportunity to engage Prof. Moyo so that she can give her expertise. I see a comment from Laurent. We can When can we get the recording for this session? I'll have to listen to it more than 3 times. Okay, we will share the recording immediately after the session. I will then share it on our model communities and the RCDMS. Any questions? So, Prof. Moyo, if I could just open the floor for everyone, and if I could go first. I wanted to ask, in your presentation, you mentioned that maybe if your study, maybe if you're not finding recent literature on your study, you mentioned that it is a gap on its own. But when you're writing your research proposal, do you mention that in your proposal that the reason why you're using like old references because there isn't recent literature on this particular topic? Do you mention it in your research proposal? And if you do, at what point in your research proposal do you mention it?
Yes, whenever literature is involved, literature is involved when you set when you write up your background, when you support your problem statement, and in the literature review itself. So this is where you are explaining, you are synthesizing the literature, you are pointing to what has been done and what has not been done. And where you are explaining or pointing to what has not been done, this is where you are able to then argue or indicate that there isn't most recent literature on this in this topic. I found 2020 sources, for example. After 2020, I don't find anything. But then you need to do it, you need to state it in such a way that your argument is convincing. Then this is where context as well comes in to support that argument. For example, you cannot claim not to find most recent literature in all the contexts. You might find that, for example, in the developed regions, they are developed in so many ways. Maybe there is the most recent source in the developed region, but in the developing region where your context of study is, you don't find anything. You should be able to make that, to differentiate. You should be able to point to the real issues in the literature. Or maybe it's about methodology. I am very particular about the methodology that was used to understand experiences of women leading schools, women leading education. So you should be able to point, so that by you being able to point that, you are also enriching your gap. You are also substantiating your argument for you to be able to do that, because you cannot go and focus on the same context. For example, look for other places. There is a technology, there is a technology that we can use to search the literature, to look for the most, to find. And until we are able to state that we are not able to find the literature, we are sure that we have used the most efficient search engines, although I haven't seen any search engines that has been referred to as 100%. So you must be able to mention that whenever you mention your literature, and this also enriches your argument. I'm not sure if I have answered you.
Yes, you have. Thank you so much. We have a hand from Dumisani. You may unmute yourself, Dumisani, and ask your question.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for the informative presentation. I'm currently registered for PhD first years in mathematics education. So I hear that in PhD, you have to do the mixed method approach. Is it always necessary to conduct a mixed method for a PhD, or can I still use the qualitative approach only? Yeah, thank you.
If I may ask Dumisani before I respond to your question,
Yes.
who is indicating to you that you should use mixed methods?
No, I spoke to my supervisor. So basically, my study it's about investigating the influence of indigenous knowledge system on learners' mathematics experience in schools. So the way I see, I think the approach that is applicable, it will be the qualitative. So at the moment, I don't know how to make it a mixed method, you know.
All right. So now your supervisor is a human being and you are also a human being. So this is where you use your own humanness to negotiate, to speak to your supervisor. Remember, we are going to be together for a long time on this journey. You should enjoy what you're going to do. You should enjoy this journey. So you should be able to negotiate with your supervisor that you put in some facts as to why you prefer a qualitative study. Use your humanness to ask the supervisor to please, because there are debates out there that are pointing even to us who find qualitative study methodologies most suitable for what I'm doing, for the literature I'm reading. There are debates that are pointing to that are asking for us to try mixed methods, of course, but you are not forced to do that. So negotiate much as you have been able to negotiate this topic. Also ask and negotiate that you prefer the qualitative methodology, so that we want you to enjoy this journey until that last day when we celebrate on the graduation day.
Okay. Thank you very much. Second question. On your presentations, you've mentioned the importance of contextual justification, like the geographic and socio-political sectors. So I'm planning to collect the data in Mpumalanga rural schools and in Gauteng township schools. Will it be feasible for me to collect that data from the rural schools in Mpumalanga and township schools in Gauteng? Is that possible?
Then you have to look at the time. As a PhD student, you do have the time to do that. And you also consider resources. Do you have resources? Because you at this level, you cannot make use or utilize research assistants. You have to do it on your own. Okay. So you have to consider the available resources. Are you going to be able to travel in person to Mpumalanga, collect the data, and go to come to Gauteng to do the same. Consider all that. And then another question will be, what's the importance of you doing it in Mpumalanga and Gauteng? And I know readers are very much interested about context. They are very much interested about disadvantaged context, rural context being one of them. So I know when you begin to write your work for publication, then it's going to be to attract some readers. Then you have to consider if at all it is important for you to make that comparison between Mpumalanga and Gauteng.
Okay. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you, Dumisani, for your questions, and also thank you, Prof. Moyo, for addressing them. I see some comments on the chat about the workshops. From the RCD, let me just say we have the first question says, this session will hugely assist if it could be arranged as early as March. And then the second comment says, I hope workshops will be structured sequentially in relation to the development of a dissertation or thesis. It makes more sense to discuss a section of the research while you're writing it. So thank you very much for your comments and your suggestions. We have taken note of them, and we'll try our best to arrange the workshop sequentially so that the parts that most students are busy with can be addressed in the workshop. So thank you for your suggestions. So we have taken that into note. Any other questions that you would want Prof. Moyo to address? So Prof, how many papers are required from the PhD students?
At least 2 papers.
At least 2, okay.
So whilst we are there, it then depends on you as a student, what you want to do. Why are you studying the PhD? Do you want to remain where you are as a practitioner, or you want to join academia? So it depends on what you want to do. So if you want to join academia, then publications becomes one of the most important things in academia. So then publishing from your thesis has to be the starting point. So at that point, you decide what you want to do with your thesis, but then the faculty is going to require 2 papers.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to give some time again for the participants to ask questions. If you still have some questions that you would like Prof. Moyo to address, so that we can all be, sorted out when we leave the session. So, Prof. Moyo, what advice would you give to maybe a beginner who's still trying to develop their academic writing skills, to intensively develop their academic writing skills? What advice can you give to such an individual?
I think in addition to the slide where I indicated some skills that you need, you also need self-motivation. This should come from inside. Why? You are also going to determine, or you are going to pace your supervisor that, oh, this is how I want to do my work. For example, I did pace my supervisor, and she confessed one day that, oh, I saw the work coming and coming and coming. Then I knew I have to be on my toes. So that's how I got to complete my PhD in 3 years, although I was working full time. And also I had small kids to look after. So for someone who is starting, self-motivation is very, very important, so that no one is going to, like, you are being pushed, that feeling whereby you are being pushed, once you got that feeling that someone is pushing you, your supervisor is nagging you, your supervisor is pushing you, then even the feedback that you're going to get, you are not going to look at the feedback positively, then everything becomes negative. So that's a very good starting point. So once you are self-motivated, once you are determined to do this, then you are going to want to learn. You are going to want to read more. So you have to read widely. You have to read and understand. You have to read and learn from what other people have done, so that once your supervisor engages you, then it also makes it easier for the supervisor. The supervisor is there to guide you by providing critical feedback, not to be the marker, not to be the teacher that is going to be pushing you, that is going to, look for information whenever there are workshops, go and attend workshops. Whenever there are people that, like myself, if you need any guidance in proposal writing or in academic writing skills, you can always request, you can always reach out, so that I can also support you. So as a person, be determined, be self-motivated, be prepared to learn, be prepared to read and read and read. Not sure if I have answered your question.
Yes, definitely you have. Thank you. Thank you very much. I see that we don't have any hands that are up, and there are no more questions on the chat. I'm just gonna ask for the last time if there are any questions that you would want to raise on the chat, or you can either unmute yourself and ask the question. And in the meantime, I will remind everyone to complete the feedback survey that is on the chat. I'm going to put it again on the chat. So please, before you leave the session, may we request that you please complete the feedback survey and give us some insights on the workshop, and maybe suggest some of the future workshops that you would like the RCD to host. So in that case, I will then take this opportunity to thank the participants who have joined us today for this workshop. Thank you for taking your time to attend our workshops. And I always say that these workshops will not be successful if you do not attend them. So please do keep on attending our workshops and make sure that you get the best out of these workshops, and they can assist you in writing your thesis and your dissertations. And I would also take this opportunity to thank you, Prof. Moyo, for honoring our invitation and for preparing and giving this presentation. This was such a very insightful and detailed presentation, and even those who did not know where to start with the presentation, with their proposal rather, and they were confused, you have clearly laid out the structure of the research proposal and the submission procedure, and we thank you for that. And are there any last comments or questions, either from the participants? Okay, so if there are no more questions, I will then conclude the session. And thank you so much, Prof. Moyo. Are there any last words that you want to leave the audience with?
No, just to thank you, Koketso, for all these workshops. And I will always encourage students and any other person to make use of the resources that are available in postgrad, and they are very, very useful, and you are going to learn a lot. So thank you so much for attending, and thank you for participating.
Okay, thank you very much. And just to mention, we have workshops running throughout the year. from February until November, and we have workshops all 5 days of the week. We either have workshops on we either have 2 workshops a day, which the first session could be from 10 until 12, and then the second session is from 1 o'clock until 3 o'clock on Monday to Friday. So we have workshops throughout the week, and so please do attend. And also we cover different themes every month. So we have flyers that we distribute to everyone. So if maybe you can get the flyers and distribute it, or maybe share it with your colleagues, so that more of the people can know about the workshops that we are hosting, and everyone can attend, and all the postgraduates actually can try to attend and learn as much as they can from our workshops. So we thank you so much for attending today's workshops, and have a wonderful day further. Can I please ask Prof. Moyo to please share the presentation with me, so that we can upload it together with the recording on our Moodle Communities and RCDMS. Thank you very much.
I will do. Thanks.